It was the morning of Friday the 31st of July when we readied Magic Hawk for a 4 or 5 day trip away. Unfortunately, the following week we had some commitments, so we couldn't make a longer journey on this occasion. It was our intention originally to go along the north coast of Anglesey. However, the wind was due to veer to the northwest and north and strengthen, so this meant that the anchorages over there would be untenable. So we decided on a trip into the Menai Strait and specifically up to Menai Bridge. Another factor which influenced this decision was a painful foot condition which I'd developed called plantar fasciitis. To be honest, I'd never even heard of it before, but I was quite happy to go somewhere where I could just relax for a couple of days. The footage that you're watching now is being shot by a new action camera which I bought when I retired, but I've never used it. So I've got it mounted on the stern arch, and this is the first time I've used any of its footage in one of my videos. As we were motoring out of the Conwy Channel and we're at the closest point to mainland North Wales, we noticed that the wind suddenly freshened and we had about 15 knots of breeze from across our port quarter. So we made the snap decision to get the genoa up and do some sailing. Unfortunately, I'd completely forgotten to move the genoa car back into its correct position, as I normally keep it well forward to stow the ropes out of the way. So I just had to make a quick trip forward and pull it back and then retrim the sails. But unfortunately I did also notice that the furler wouldn't actually release the last couple of turns. I've no idea why that was, because they twisted round quite easily by hand. So I went back to the cockpit and winched it in to a reasonable shape. Within seconds of getting the sail set correctly, the wind just simply died, and as you can see, the sail started to collapse back into the boat. Very, very frustrating. So therefore we decided there was only one thing to do, and that was to run the engine again and furl the sail back up and carry on as we were.
It's Friday the 31st of July and we've left Conwy on a trip over into the Menai Strait. Beautiful day today. It's expected to be up to about 26 Celsius today, and it's pretty hot at the moment. We came out of the Conway Channel and there was quite a bit of wind, so we popped the genoa up, but unfortunately within 10 seconds of getting it set, the wind dropped from about 15 knots to 3. We were just wallowing about, so unfortunately we've had to put it away and got the engine going again. But the true wind speed is only around about a knot, so sadly we're having to motor across to Puffin Island. The tide will be against us going into the strait, but there's no problem because we've got plenty of time. We'll go and find a mooring, pick it up and enjoy some time in the strait. Every time we pass Puffin Island on the north side here, we always seem to pass the fishing boat Sarah Jane 2. It must be their spot.
Julie and I always enjoy entering the Menai Strait and passing our old friend the Trwyn lighthouse with its famous clanging bell. As we passed the lighthouse, a westerly consort came towards us, motor sailing out of the strait. It looked a really nice boat. Unfortunately I didn't quite catch its name. Later on, after we'd picked up a mooring, we were passed by two more westerlies. The first, a westerly consort called Virgo, then a westerly 33 called Occy, who we know is owned by Peter Rowlands, who is part of the Westerly Owners Association in North Wales. When I first saw this lady, it immediately reminded me of the film Back to the Future 2, where Marty McFly was riding on a hoverboard. These girls were really good and it looked great fun. There was plenty going on during the day as we relaxed on our mooring. There was a group of kayakers who were making their way up the strait towards the bridge. There was a male and female swan and their cygnet quite close to the shore. And this yacht called Golden Spirit, who was sailing quite skillfully through the moorings. And it's 08:51 on Sunday morning, the 2nd of August. We've just dropped the mooring at Menai Bridge and we're starting our trip back to Conwy. Beautiful morning. Lots of sunshine at the moment, just a light breeze. We were quite a way past Beaumaris when I happened to glance back towards the Menai Bridge and I could see that it was brightly lit by the sun. I've never actually seen it quite so clearly from such a long distance away, as it usually is quite grey and blends into the background. Amazing. For vessels with a draft like Magic Hawk, the Conwy River, where we're heading, is accessible around about 3 hours before and after high water, but the ebb tide can be quite strong, so with that in mind we had to continue to motor out of the straits as we had the tide against us by this time, but we had about 15 knots of wind over the port quarter so we could motor sail out. That reminds me, I must grease that squeaking winch. We passed to the south of Puffin Island and out into Conway Bay. It's just gone 10:15 now. We've just passed Puffin Island. We came through the channel to the south of the island today. There's plenty of water over the tail of the reef, so it was comparatively easy to get round. We're just crossing Conway Bay now. It's a bit dark and overcast. We're doing about 5 knots through the water. Just got the Genoa pushing us along in around about 10 knots of wind. So all's well, and a cup of tea as well. So thanks to the first mate.
Pleasure.
When we got back to our mooring, we had quite a surprise, as we found that both of our mooring strops had wrapped themselves around the chain underneath the buoy, even though they had a float to keep them above the water. We managed to use our cong hook to clip onto the buoy and then put a line around it to hold the boat. I had to free the lines from the dinghy later on in the day. A little later we were passed by the Conwy lifeboat, who had a shout to bring in a fishing boat whose engine had broken down. If you saw our last video, you may recall an example of a yacht coming in at night with all the wrong navigation lights showing. Well, on this particular night we were passed by another yacht going into Marina, but this guy had got it absolutely right. A couple of days later we followed yacht Morisco upstream into Conway to take on some water at the fuel pontoon. There were lots of people on the town quay, all with their crab fishing lines, but unfortunately not a lot of social distancing was going on.